Yes, indeedy, folks. It's the Beer Drinker's Guide to the Great Wahoo. And now, folks, let's ski Alaska. I got to Anchorage on Wednesday. I got a room, spent the night, got up the next day, and got my train ticket. Well, the train wasn't leaving till Saturday, so I decided that a good thing to do would be drive down to Seward. I got in the car, and while I was driving along, I noticed that there was a ski area on the way. Since I got to Seward rather early, and it was a nice place to visit, but not too much to do, I decided to go back and check out the ski area. Alyeska ski area on Alyeska Mountain is located at the end of the Turnagain Arm off of Cook Inlet. It is 40 miles to the south and east of Anchorage, and it is 90 miles north of Seward. You reach the end of Turnagain Arm. You turn into the town of Girdwood, here seen from up on the ski hill. And you drive over to the Alyeska Hotel, here with the beautiful Mount Alyeska in the background. Well, I was traveling in Alaska, so I had warm clothes, I had my ski clothes, I had all kinds of things to keep me warm, but I had not carried along my ski boots or my skis or anything like that, so I went around back of the hotel and found the place that they were renting skis. It's not unusual to be able to rent skis, boots, and poles. That's kind of a given at any ski resort. So I went up and I asked if they had very large boots and very short skis, which is what I need to ski. They assured me that they did. I asked them how much it was, and it certainly wasn't anything to worry about. And I asked them if they had any packages where I could stay at this nice hotel and get ski equipment and a ski pass. The hotel looked a little nicer than I usually stay at, but you know, I have learned over the years to treat yourself when you're traveling, especially when it's something you'll probably never go back and do, so enjoy it while you're there. And at the same time, I didn't want to bust the bank and have to worry too much about things once I got home. So I asked, and they said, well, we suppose we do, but we don't know about that kind of thing. We're just renting equipment. So go ask at the front desk. So I went over, pushed open the big doors, and walked into this nice lobby, and walked up to the hotel desk. Well, folks, I don't care if you've stayed at Little Dives or if you've stayed at the nicest hotels in the world. No matter where you go, every hotel desk is the same. There's the desk. Behind it is a person looking at you. Behind that person is a counter, which probably has somebody leaning against it who has just been talking to the person who's talking with you over the desk. Off to one side or the other is a door that goes into the office. I mean, that's a hotel. So I walk in, and sure enough, there's the desk. There's the counter. There's one person leaning on it talking to the desk clerk. I walk up. The desk clerk greets me, very cordial young lady. I ask if, I ask how much rooms are, and as I remember, they're, $150 or something. It was the middle of March, and it was the middle of the week, so I figured they'd probably be pretty reasonable. But still, $150, that's quite a few beers. So I asked if they had any packages that would include, a ski pass and this rental equipment and a room, and being the middle of the week, maybe it wouldn't be so much money and things like that. And she says, oh, yes, we do. She says, for $100 you get the room and the ski pass and equipment. I says, oh, well, I'd like that. She says, well, unfortunately, it's a internet special. So to get that, you have to either get it over the internet or call our 800 number. So I says, well, would you mind giving me your 800 number and letting me know where there's a payphone? Maybe one in town if you don't want it coming from right here in the hotel. And she says, oh, that's all right, sir. She says, I'll dial it for you. And she pushes the buttons and she hands me the phone. Well, that's about as cordial as you can get. So I pick up the phone and I'm listening for it, and pretty soon I hear the little buzz that says that it's ringing. And at the same time I hear the buzz, through the little door that's behind the counter, I hear a telephone ring. The gal that's leaning against the counter gets away from the counter, walks around through the door. I hear her pick up the phone, and through the door I hear her say hello. At the same time, over the phone, I hear her say hello. I hear that you have an internet special, and I'd like to reserve a room. We have your room, sir. She did get my information over the phone, so I guess technically I made my reservations according to Hoyle. Very, very accommodating. It was a beautiful room. I asked for a room on the upper floors looking over the valley, and they got me that. Very lovely room. Unfortunately, folks, in those days, I did not have a digital camera. These days, I would have pictures of the room, I would have movies, but this was in 2001, way back when we actually used celluloid to make photographs. And I do not have a photo of that room. Also, these days, digital cameras are amazing. You can get great pictures in low light. So, unfortunately, I can't show you the room, but trust me, it was a very pleasant room. It was very nice. The next day, I got up, went out and rented my equipment, or picked it up, I guess, since I'd already rented it. And right next to where you get your equipment is where the tram, the gondola, starts for going up the hill. Well, I'm going to tell you a little more about that gondola here in a second. But in the meantime, let's play two games. One, we will play Alyeska Ski Hill, some fun facts. And secondly, we will play Let's Compare Alyeska and Bogus. Here we go. So let's go look at some fun facts about the Alyeska ski area, shall we? The tippy top of the mountain at Alyeska Mountain is 4,000 feet. 3,939 is what I call 4,000 when I'm standing on the top of it. And the base of the hill is 250 feet. Once you leave the turn-again arm of Cook Inlet, you don't drive very far before you're at the base of the hill. The top of the lifts are at 2,750 feet, which gives us the all-important vertical that all skiers worry about of 2,500 feet to ski. It's quite a lot of area to ski. There is a tram at the ski area. It goes from the hotel we were looking at up to 2,300 feet, and then there are chairlifts that take you either further up the mountain or from the bottom of the mountain on up to the top of the hill. The tram has a couple interesting things. They installed it with variable motor, so in the winter it runs at full speed, 25 miles an hour, and takes 4 minutes to get up the hill. In the summer, they run it at half speed so people can enjoy the view, and it takes 8 minutes to get up the hill. 60 passengers per car, and it drops you off at these buildings that you see there on your right. They have a nice observation deck there. They have a nice restaurant. It's a pleasant thing to do to go up and enjoy dinner up there. This side of that observation deck, you can see the ski hill. It's basically one large bowl. You can see that there are chairlifts running up the far side of it there, and otherwise you ski down this large bowl. So let's compare Alyeska and Bogus, shall we? Bogus being my favorite hill where I learned to ski. When we're doing this, let's look at this vertical of 2,500 feet that Alyeska has. From the top of the mountains to the top of the ski lifts, we're not going the full distance, just the vertical. At Bogus, the tippy top of the mountain is 7,600 feet, and we ski almost to that. There's an extra 10 feet there at the top of Schaefer Butte that we don't ski. So that leaves us a vertical of 1,800 feet, since the base of the hill is not at 250 feet, but rather at almost 6,000 feet. Leaves us 1,800 feet to ski versus Alyeska's 2,500 feet. A bit of a difference. Another thing that skiers look at is how many acres do you get to ski on. Bogus covers 3 sides of 2 different hills. Alyeska is pretty much just that bowl I showed you. So there's a difference of 1,400 skiable acres at Alyeska, 2,600 skiable acres at Bogus. Another very interesting thing to look at is the difference between where the mountain sits. I found this fascinating. All over Alaska, I found it interesting. So let's again look at Alyeska and those 2,500 feet that are 250 feet above sea level. Where the story gets interesting is that 250 feet above sea level. Let's go take a look at that, shall we? As I said, at Alyeska, you drive up the Turn-Again Arm, you leave the sea level for a very short ways, and you are at the hotel where the ski hill begins. However, of course, for Bogus, you start at sea level, and then you go up the Columbia River to the Snake River at Kennewick, Washington. Then you go up the Snake River to the Boise River at Parma, all the way up through Hell's Canyon. And then you go up the Boise River to downtown Boise, and when you are there, let's say at Julia Davis Park, you're at 2,704 feet. This is downtown Boise, 2,704 feet. You then go up to Schaefer Butte, to the very tippy top of the mountain, at 7,600 feet. There is one little interesting thing we'll put a little side note on. That is a difference of 4,896 feet, or 92.7% of a mile. Quite literally, when you're in Boise looking up at the top of Schaefer Butte, you are looking at a mile vertical elevation. Rather impressive for a town sitting out in the middle of a river valley. Since the road to Bogus covers that 1 mile distance going up in 16 miles worth of road, we have quite a spectacular drive every time we decide to drive up to Bogus, which really to me is part of the fun of skiing at Bogus. I really enjoy the drive up there and the drive back down. But let's get back to our story. So with Bogus Basin being the skiable area it is, we see that Bogus Basin sits right on top of this tall mountain that's behind Boise. It takes up, this is drawn pretty much to scale, takes up about that much of the top of the mountain relative to its height above sea level. So where is Alyeska? Let's take a look, shall we? That's right, folks. Alyeska, the very top of the chairlifts at Alyeska, are just about the same height as Julia Davis Park. They start skiing, they go up the tram, they get on a chairlift and go up to the very top of the hill that they can ski to, and they're just about at the same altitude as Julia Davis Park. Fascinating. This, from where I took this picture, is just about the same altitude as Julia Davis Park. Amazing. Look at the tree line. Our tree line, of course, is up in the Sawtooth somewhere. You start looking at the tree line, I don't know, I suppose it's 9,000 feet in Idaho. Yet here in Alaska, where the winters are so harsh, the conditions are so harsh, the tree line is only a few hundred feet, or, probably, well, what would that be? If we were at 2,700 feet, that's probably about 1,000 feet. The conditions get so rough, the trees can no longer grow there. I found that all over Alaska. You drive all over Alaska and see these big, beautiful, beautiful mountains. You think, wow, what spectacular country. And then I was turning down or driving up the turn again arm that you see there on the left side of the picture. And I kept thinking, wait a minute, this is sea level. That turn again arm that you see down there is sea level. The trees go up to maybe 1,000 feet, and all these huge, big, spectacular hills that you see are, well, they're not as high as Boise is. It's fascinating, fascinating country. So that's the difference that a little altitude and being up close to the top of the mountain, close to the top of the world makes. So those were a couple interesting things I found was the difference in altitude and what a difference it made to how you ski. There is one other thing that we will be looking at also, and that, of course, is another very important issue for all skiers, which is, you got it, how much snow? As anyone who has ever had to sit and listen to skiers or snowboarders talk about their sport, snow depth is an all-consuming consideration. At Bogus, the year 2007-2008 was a good year. We had a total of 247 inches or 246 inches of snow by April, and it's still snowing out there. I happen to be recording this in April, which leaves us a snow depth of 93 inches at the top of the hill. That's a pretty good year for Bogus. Usually Bogus is glad to get about 80 inches of snow, packed snow on the slopes, makes for good skiing. And here we have Bogus Basin looking into the bowl, looking into the basin itself. This is, while they're recording, their beautiful 93 inches of skiable snow. In 2007-2008, Alyeska also had a good year. They're 109% of average, not quite 10% more than usual. They had 814 inches of snow by April, with 222 inches of packed snow on the slopes. I'm not just sure how much snow there was in 2002 when I took this photograph, but here's Alyeska with all that snow. They usually get a lot of it. So here they are compared side by side. Bogus on a good year with 246 inches total snow, 93 inches packed. Alyeska, 814 inches total snow on a year where they're about 10% more than usual. 222 inches under your skis while you're sliding down the hill. One interesting thing about Alyeska is the bottom of the hill is so close to the sea level that there is not anywhere near 93 inches of snow at the bottom of the hill. Still, there's a lot of snow under your skis. Bogus Basin, 93 inches of snow. Alyeska, 222 inches of snow. While we're considering snow depth at Alyeska, let's look at another interesting comparison. In 2008, as I said, pretty good year, 814 inches of total snow. Average 742 inches of snow. However, in the years 1997-98 and 1998-99, Alyeska had some record snowfalls. Both of those years, they had 1,100 inches of snow, 91.6 feet. That is as tall as a 10-story building of snow falling on that hill. My, would your snow shovel be busy? And that, folks, is the difference between living halfway from the North Pole to the equator, as we do here with Bogus, and living pretty well on top of the world up in Alyeska. And now, an exciting story from the Great Pate, celebrating baldicity since 1977. Brought to you by Just Pates, where we barber to the bald. Yes, folks, Just Pates. We take Pates seriously. Remember, folks, at Just Pates, we never need to sharpen our scissors, and we pass the savings on to you. Just Pates.
I was working at the airport for many years, and one of the things that happened while I was up there, I was one day walking through the dining room, waiting tables as I do, and a gentleman stopped me and was being extremely polite and didn't want to hurt my feelings and didn't want to cause me any consternation, and certainly didn't want to be rude, and certainly this and certainly that. And he sat there for quite a while telling me that he was trying to be kind and not mean. In the meantime, of course, I'm a waiter. 5 seconds is a long time, and I could be getting things done. But in the meantime, I'm also a waiter, and you learn to stop and dismiss all the things that you know you have to be doing and pay attention when somebody has something to say. So I let this gentleman chat, and while I was doing that, I looked at him, and he was a nice enough guy, kind of a fussy guy, these kind of fussy guys. But one of the things that I really noticed about him was his hair. It was every little hair was in place where it belonged. And it just kind of, I thought, geez, does this guy spend an hour a day fussing in front of the mirror to make sure that every little hair on his head is in the right place? I don't know. It'd drive me nuts. But in the meantime, I had something to think about while he was sitting there not saying anything. He was trying to say something, but I just couldn't figure out what it was he wanted to talk with me about. Well, at the time, I didn't have quite the pate that I do now, but it was getting pretty thin, and I was dealing with that, and I finally figured out that what he was trying to say, he kept talking about, the product that I have is it's as good as those things you see advertised on TV, but it's sold from friend to friend, and it's a lot less expensive, and it's a better product. And I figured out he's trying to sell something, and finally I figured out that what he's trying to sell me is a pyramid scheme way of selling hair growth products, because I was one of those people that might be helped by what he has to offer, but he would never say what it was he had to offer or how I might be helped. Well, as I said, I finally figured out that what he was talking about was that I was going bald, and obviously going bald, and then I got to realizing why all of his little hairs were in place, because obviously this was of major importance to him. Well, once I had figured out what he was talking about, I let him finish his statement, and I looked him right in the face, and I said, well, I really do want to thank you for going out of your way to talk with me about this, and I really do appreciate your concern, and I can appreciate how sincere you are, and I appreciate that you were so concerned about my feelings and not wanting to hurt my feelings. However, I really have to tell you this. I've gotten laid a lot more since I went bald than I ever got laid before I was bald. Well, believe me, folks, if you'd have had a wet noodle, you could have knocked this guy over. For one thing, I had used the word bald. Oh my God, you don't say that. And for another thing, I had used it in the same sentence as the word laid. You know, folks, I think that the folks that you might want to impress enough to get in bed with, well, I don't know. I'd much rather those people to be people that aren't going to lay me because I have hair, but because I'm interesting. And how can I possibly be interesting if I spend all my time fussing about something as silly as whether I'm going bald or not?
So a guy calls up his wife's divorce lawyer. "I'd like to talk to my wife's divorce lawyer," he says. Receptionist says, "Oh, well, you know, sir, I'm sorry to inform you, but he passed away 2 days ago, so I can't get him on the line for you." Next day, phone rings. Guy says, "I'd like to talk to my wife's divorce lawyer." Receptionist says, "Well, sir, I told you yesterday that he passed away a few days ago. I can't get him on the line for you." Third day, phone rings. Receptionist answers it. "I'd like to talk to my divorce lawyer," the guy says. Well, the poor receptionist is getting a little frustrated with this, and she says, "Sir, I told you he has died and can't come to the phone. Why do you keep calling back?" The man replies, "I just like hearing that." And there's another guide to the Great Wahoo. Thanks for joining me. Looking forward to having you drop by next week. In the meantime, remember, keep celebrating the Great Wahoo.